Okay, let's get going. Hi everyone, thank you for coming tonight. My name is Casey Shuda. I manage construction relations for the Purple Line project. We have some elected officials in the house tonight that I'd like to welcome. Jay Greenstein from Councilmember Koretz's office. We have Nikki Ezrahi from Councilmember Ryu's office. And Nick Grief from Councilmember Ryu's office. Anyone else that I missed? Okay. I'm gonna have to do this manually. So tonight we have a little different agenda than we normally do. What we're gonna do is talk about the La Brea decking schedule first. Councilmember Ryu is coming, so we're gonna go over that presentation about the La Brea decking, the closures you've been hearing about, 7 weeks versus 22 weekends. We'll let the council members speak on that issue as well. And then we'll do a short Q&A on decking only. So if you have not filled out a speaker card, please do so. If you would like a speaker card, raise your hand. Mindy will hand out cards. When you've filled out your speaker card with your name and your question, please hand it back in to Mindy. We're going to be using those cards to call out the questionnaire. We'll allow you to come up and ask your question to the council member, but it will allow us to keep things moving. Once we do the question and answer for the street decking, the council member has to leave for another event, and then we'll get started on the rest of our presentation. So we'll talk about the Fairfax Station, La Cienega Station, Western Station. All those issues will follow after the decking question and answer period. So tonight we're here to talk about the Purple Line project. Section 1 is extending from the Wilshire Western Station that currently exists, building new stations at Wilshire La Brea, Wilshire Fairfax, and Wilshire La Cienega. Section 1, which I just spoke of, is under construction. Section 2 is right now doing some potholing and geotechnical work for investigations of this station at Wilshire Rodeo Drive and Century City. That contract for Section 2 is on the street, so we can't really talk about it, but people, the bidders, the contractors have the documents, and we hope to have someone on board to construct that project next year. Section 3 is still way far out. So here's a map of Section 1, what we're going to be talking about tonight. And now I'm going to bring up Jill Steiner from our contractor, STS, a joint venture, and she's going to give us a presentation on piling and decking at La Brea.
Good evening. I am not Jill. I'm Mike Aparicio, your project director for Skanska Trailer Shea, the executive in charge for the contractor of building this project for the Purple Line extension. And with me is Jill Steiner, our design build coordination manager. And so we are going to talk about perhaps what for the La Brea station and the other stations that are a couple years from now, but first the La Brea station, one of the biggest high-profile construction events on the project. We visited with you over the last few months, and this is getting closer, which is the assembly and construction of the decks for the underground station. So Jill and I are going to ham and eggs this, and our intent tonight is to well inform you and take your questions. Jill?
Thank you. So this slide here, this is just a rendering of the La Brea station. It's on the northwest corner of Wilshire and La Brea. Right here is kind of a high-level schedule of the La Brea station. The AUR work that you guys were dealing with last year, most of this year, we're finishing up right now. This is the advanced utilities being relocated. Piling is starting. You saw the traffic shift go up, so now all the traffic is shifted to the southern 4 lanes on Wilshire Boulevard. And then following piling is the installation of decking, concurrent then with the excavation and the shoring, to be followed by tunneling, station construction, and ultimately testing, and it will be commissioned. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Sorry, okay. So this is what you're seeing right there, out there right now. We've got 2 lanes of traffic each direction. That pretty much goes from Detroit to Orange. We're gonna have a pile rig out there very soon. Right now they've started the potholing activity and the pre-trenching for the piles. So that is taking place this week, and pretty soon you're gonna see us drilling piles out there sometime in the next couple of weeks. The work hours for the pile is 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. Monday through Friday night. And this will go on until the March, April-ish time frame, and then we'll start rolling into the decking operation.
So 11 p.m.?
Yes. This is just a little rendering of what it looks like out there, some of the equipment, what our work zones will look like. We've got K-rail and fencing, and we're going to also then have noise barriers as well. On top of the fencing that's out there is we've got signage up there showing the businesses that are behind those fenced areas, so you kind of lose your visibility a little bit for the driving traffic, so that's going up right now. And then we're going to be rolling into decking. Mike, I'll let you talk about this.
The decks, what we are really focused on tonight, and we want to listen with great intent from you for any community input on the deck construction. We are building an underground subway. Of course, the biggest thing that seems to get a lot of attention on an underground subway, and by the way, Dennis Morey, the project executive for Metro's here tonight, and he and I have done a number of these jobs together, is the tunnel boring machines, which, frankly speaking, you're probably never going to hardly see those because they're buried underground. But to get the tunnel boring machine started and to build the underground stations, we have to cut open the La Brea Street in the perimeter of the station, and we have to put the decks on, which will carry traffic at the surface. It's a temporary deck while we mine underneath and get below deck. We have to dig the street up and put 60-foot wide beams, is that what our 65-foot wide beams, basically from lane to lane, all the way across the street, and then we have to put a temporary precast concrete deck on the top. The only way that you can do this is to excavate the entire street up and place that, and what we're going to talk about tonight is the methods of excavating and the schedule for excavating the street. This is coming in the mid-March 2016 timeframe, hence why we are informing you well in advance of what's coming up for the La Brea station. If you look, let's go back, if you look at the bottom right-hand diagram there, the picture, you can see a schematic of the street is dug up. You can see the deck beams all the way across the street. You can see the heavy equipment in the bottom. And you can start to see by looking at the top half of that particular diagram where traffic's on it, you can see the little squares. That's the precast concrete deck that is in place while we work down below. Next. So Jill now is going to talk about, I'll be back in a second to talk more about decking, but Jill is going to talk about sequencing, scheduling, and how we can assemble these decks and what type of traffic patterns around that.
Thank you. Okay, so you guys saw this slide when we did the presentation a couple months ago in September. What this shows is the decking. As you can see, it starts at the purple all the way just to the east of Detroit, and the deck extends all the way just to the east of Orange Street. What's in purple is the decking that's going to be done over weekends. It starts at 9 o'clock on Friday night. We'll do a full closure of Wilshire Boulevard, and we'll work continuously until Monday morning at 6 a.m., and we'll open the street back up. That'll take place over 6 weekends for that entire purple area. What we're looking at is we can either continue with the baseline as how the job was bid was to do the weekend closures, and we can continue that to the east all the way through the green area. Weekends, night work, Friday night to Monday morning, 24 hours a day. Or there's an alternative that's been presented, which is taking those 16 weekends that remain for the green and doing a full closure of Wilshire Boulevard from just east of La Brea, so La Brea is still open north-south, and closing it to the hard closure on Highland, but the work would only take place just to where you see there by the orange area. So that could be done in a 7-week period if we were to work continuously for 7 weeks instead of going over the weekend closures. I'm going to kind of get into that a little bit more. So the baseline schedule for that pink area, for the green area you just saw, 16 weekends, Friday night, 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. Monday morning, continuous work. How that adds up for the duration of the work through there is you've got 48 nights of work, you've got 32 days of work, so those 48 nights is Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night. 32 days is Saturday day, Sunday day. That's over the weekend. But what you also have is 85 days of work for that Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. behind the K-rail. So as we do the decking, that K-rail, when it's on the south side, will still be in place. And we will continue to work behind the K-rail Monday through Friday night in order to prep for the next weekend coming up for the full closure. As you can see there, the differences from this to doing, extended closures is having the approval process. There's less approvals needed for this. It's part of the baseline of the project. The pros here, obviously, there's less traffic on weekends. And some of the cons is that we're going to have continuous night work over the weekends for the 16 weekends, and it's just a longer duration in the schedule. We get to the end point of having the deck in a longer period of time. This right here, Mike, talk about this.
So here's what we do during the shifts so that you can get an idea of what is happening in the project at that time. This is the weekend work. I want to reiterate what Jill presented. This is the traditional method that we've done throughout the metro system here. Shut the road down at Wilshire at 9 o'clock, correct? 9 o'clock on Friday night, work 55 hours all the way through the weekend, open it back up again at 6 a.m. on Monday morning. Shifts are working all the way through that time. And here's just a quick description of the work that takes place. Friday, first shift, 9 p.m. through Saturday at 1 p.m. Close the road. Go out into the street with big excavators, start digging up the asphalt, digging up the street, put it in dump trucks, haul it away. We start to set the frame of the deck beams. We start to weld. We also have utilities that are throughout Wilshire Boulevard that we have to secure and suspend under the deck so that we don't interrupt any utility service. Second shift, we install and hang the utilities. We then begin to start installing the concrete decks. We finish up our welding. Then through the early morning hours of Monday, we will start to restore the street. We have to make nice paved street tapered ramps at the ends of the decks to make it very safe and that traffic won't feel too much of a bump. We take great care with that. We have to stripe to the satisfaction of the City of LA DOT. We reopen the road, and then we will start working below the deck on the wood lagging. Wait till the next weekend, do it again.
Okay. So this is the alternative schedule that's been proposed over the last couple of months. This is the 7 weeks of that same green area. It would be closing the street down at probably after the end of a weekend closure. So we'd have a weekend closure Friday night to Monday morning, and then on Monday morning, we would just continue to keep the street closed from Wilshire to Brea, and then we would then put a hard closure down at Highland. This would be 49 days and 49 nights. But what this offers is we would create what we call a quiet period. So we would have from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. we would work above deck. We'd have the excavators, we'd be setting beams, we'd be setting deck panels, but at 11 o'clock at night, we would then go under the deck. And all those things that we talked about, the hanging utilities, the welding, that would then take place under the deck. So we could create kind of a quiet hour for the neighborhood. This does require us to do a traffic study. It does require us to get it approved by the Department of Transportation. It does require us to get approvals from Bureau of Engineering, Bureau of Street Services. Ultimately, we do have to get approval from the Board of Public Works. So there's a lot of approval processes in order to get this approved with the city in order to do this. The pros, like we said, obviously it creates a nighttime period. The work is going to finish faster, right? So we've got a duration here, 49 days versus the 88 days plus the weekend days that we had there of 35. And then it's more efficient for us, right? That's why we can get through this faster. The cons as we have there obviously is traffic, right? It is more congested during the weekdays. And then also is the cut through traffic. We know there's a lot of concern on that, so.
What does this schedule mean? Jill already described it well. Daytime shift, 7 a.m. up through 11 p.m., all the heavy work, the excavation, the truck hauling, the bulk of the noisy work. The nighttime work, we would take care to then put work people underneath the deck where it would be far quieter. So that's it in a nutshell. I'm sorry, I'm passionate about decking, so I get to talk about decking. Very quickly, under the decking equipment, the bottom left hand is a decks that we built for the Gold Line. That's Mariachi Plaza in East LA that was done about 10 years ago. This gives you a little flavor of the equipment there with the excavator. On the right photo is just a photo showing the actual panel itself and the cranes that are hoisting in. It's important to note that in the 55-hour weekend closure, Friday through Monday, we still must comply. All work has to comply with the nighttime noise variance, which is ambient +5. That's still a restriction. So whether we're using excavators, dump trucks, whatever, we take great care that we must be within that standard. And we do things, for instance, like we have now converted all the machinery to a Quacker backup alarm. Nothing worse than having backup alarms, listening to that at night. These are new Quacker alarms. They only radiate a few feet. They are much less stressful. We have to do things like noise blankets, sound mitigations, quiet generators and stuff, so we take great care to stay within that standard during the 55 hours. And I want to emphasize, it's a very tried and true method that's been done numerous times here within the city, and it's something that our team and the Metro team is very experienced with.
Okay, I'm just going to run a little bit through the schedule. So as you can see, up until November 12th, this is kind of what's happened over the last couple of months. Some initial outreach, the September 17th community meeting that was at the Korean Cultural Center. And here we are today talking about some of the options still. What we're going to move forward with at this point is preparing the traffic study and going down the path with LADOT to now get their, start working with them on what the potential impacts could be around here. What we plan on doing in the January community meeting is reporting back with you guys what we've done with DOT over the last couple months. Kind of a rough time frame to get us to the decking. Because we still need to, hold that date and schedule to start the work. And then you can see we've just kind of got listed some of the approval things that we have to go through with the city agencies that I mentioned earlier. And then hopefully hitting the Board of Public Works agenda in February. This is just kind of a few things that are in a traffic study. We look at level of services at the intersection as they are currently. We'll look at level of services as what they would be during along the detour routes. We look at traffic calming measures such as changeable message signs, video detection, things along those lines. This is what will be studied with the traffic study and with DOT. This here just shows a map of all the businesses and residents that are within the hard closure area from La Brea to Highland, and shows where their access points are to their building. This was a study we did very early on to make sure that we could provide access to everybody to their place of work or their residence during this period of time. And right here is just a few pictures from the gold line and the red line on the right. That's what a fully decked street looks like. That's our end goal right here over the next, 6 to 8 months. And then there's just on the left, there's pictures of what deck beams and the bracing is that's going to be installed over those, whatever the closure schedule that we go with is. And then this is probably, Casey, I'll let you talk to this.
Thank you. And then with either the baseline schedule or the alternative schedule, there'll be a very robust outreach campaign. We have here a picture of Carmageddon. It'll be that size outreach. We're doing mailers. We're creating wayfinding maps for businesses in the area. We're doing radio, print, and online advertising, having press releases, potential media events, partnerships with local schools, local communities to explain to everybody what the closure is going to look like and how we're all going to live with it. So at this time, I'd like to invite up Councilmember Ryu from Council District 4. He's going to provide some remarks. And if anybody has questions about this street decking in particular, please fill out a comment card and wave it. We'll come collect it, and then we'll answer questions at the end.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I wish we were meeting under better circumstances, but unfortunately, sometimes we've got to do these things. But first, I want to really thank all of you guys here for coming down and taking time out of your busy day. Sarah, you want to come sit up here? Just in case she's... This is Sarah Dussault, my chief of staff. In case I forget any points, I have a little notepad here, notes here to make sure I want to cover all the points. So she's going to be here, but I just want to first thank you guys for taking time out of your busy day to come out. To be honest, this is maybe a fair crowd. We should have had a lot more folks. I could tell you in the month or so when I found about this and I've been going out and reaching out on myself in my office, I know there is immense, tremendous interest from the community. Maybe we could have done a better job of, and I want to thank Metro for putting this together and inviting me. We tried to get the word out as soon as we could. Maybe we should have met a little bit later. 5:30 is not necessarily the opportune time. But as you've seen, I really want to thank Metro as well for not just doing this, but working with my office, because we have come a long way. About a month ago when I was first, or a little less than a month ago when I was first briefed on this, we went from the sky is falling and I have to make a decision on November 13th, which would have been tomorrow, to, you saw the new time frame that they shared with you, which we'll have more ample time, like till February, to do proper outreach, to get more community input, and I made it and it was very clear. A month ago, when I was presented with this, and I was told that there's been lots of community outreach done to the businesses and to the neighborhoods. And so ever since that briefing, I started reaching out on my own and asking my staff to go out in the community to double check the results that was found. And it was very clear that many people didn't know. True, outreach is not an easy thing. I don't want to blame it all on one group or one person, because as much outreach you do, there's always going to be someone who didn't know, didn't hear. So outreach is a difficult thing. But for something like this, once people find out that it's going to impact your lives 7 weeks straight, plus 6 weekends, or 22 weekends, I think people would pay attention. And again, it's my job, it's our job, it's Metro's job to reach out to every single one of you. Go to the businesses, go to the residents, go door to door, go to the neighborhood councils, go to the homeowners association, not put a little post-it and say we came by, but try again and again and again, that if you fail, do it again. And it was very clear that was not done.
Right.
So, but it's okay. We've worked with Metro, they're on board, and we're willing to work together, and we're going to have a lot better outreach. And I made it clear to Metro that what I'm demanding is before any decision is made. And thank you to the neighborhood councils and to the many homeowners association who deferred their decision. I know some folks, made a resolution thinking that they had a time frame and a timeline, and quite frankly, I mean, my office didn't get the full information, so I just wanted everyone to kind of hold back on the decision making, because I made it clear that I don't want to make any decision until, one, we have a proper traffic management plan to know exactly what's going on. Also, for both 7 weeks and 22 weekends, also a traffic mitigation plan for both of them so we could compare, contrast, and of course a comprehensive noise impact analysis. Unless we first get some of that information, we can't make a decision together as a community. And of course, I'm also asking Metro to give me weekly reports. We've been, in the past couple of weeks, I think we've met many times. We're very friendly with each other now. And of course, definitely more community outreach, community input, and proper community outreach. And, you know, I feel good about this, because I know we're starting from a bad point, and there are lots of, you know, we don't want to be like the Crenshaw line where they've had a poor outreach attempts as well, but the gold standard in outreach, and Metro has done this before, and been very successful at engaging the community and having a great product, was the Expo Phase 2. The Expo Phase 2 is the gold standard where the community, the businesses, and Metro, and the elected officials, and everybody had lots of dialogue, lots of input, lots of communications, and it worked out very well. I am confident that we could have that here again. Look, any kind of closure is not going to, it's going to be painful, but we all agree this is an important infrastructure, important necessity for our city to go forward, and we have the time to work together. So I want you to know, I'm fighting for you. And, and thinking outside the box. In the couple of days when I first found out and was reaching out to the community, they even asked, you know, what about, and it's not a rocket science idea, are we going to have some impact mitigation, are we going to have some safeguards for holidays? Of course, we should. And also, I'm challenging Metro and I'm challenging the community. I know we have these two choices here of 7 weeks straight plus 6 weekends or 22 weekends. There's nothing that says those are the only choices. Why not a hybrid? I mean, because, you know, of course there's benefits, pros and cons to both choices. Why not if we plan it out properly with the Los Angeles Department of Transportation and with Metro and the community, maybe we could have 1 week, 2 weeks of straight closure for the heavy concentrated areas, coupled with weekends, right? And actually the affected area on Wilshire, there's only a certain and of course when we do the analysis for the noise mitigation, or noise impact, I mean, how far is this noise going to go? Right? We got to figure out what it is that we're dealing with, the decibel level, how far you go in, because on the affected corridor, there's only one segment really that has residential. Everything else is businesses. So maybe in front of that area, we could do, you know, the 1 week or 2 weeks, so we could have the noise muffled at nighttime. And in the other sections, weekends. I mean, I don't know. I'm not an engineer. We got lots of experts. I'm not going to solve this by myself or overnight, but it's these common sense solutions that we could come up with together, coupled with the experts at Metro, coupled with the experts at Department of Transportation. At first, I was told that all the mitigation all the traffic was going to be diverted to Olympic, which Even if that was possible, as we all know, Olympics crowded already, right? So I don't know how you're going to prevent cut through from 60. I mean, I don't even have to explain anymore, right? So I am committed to working with you guys. I know Metro is committed to working with you guys. City of LA is committed to working with you guys. The sky is not falling. We could work at it together. We have we have some time. They have a huge aggressive campaign. Now with you guys here in the room, and a lot of leaders are here, it's not just forums like this, but we will go to you. Metro will go to you. The outreach campaign is going to go out to you, to the various homeowners associations. I'm sure if we asked the various homeowners associations, neighborhood councils, if you could hold a special meeting, I'm sure you will want to help us out on this. So whether it's the next barbecue you have, it's about going there, explaining information, but before that we need to get more improper information for you guys to be able to digest. So I want you to know I'm fighting for you. I mean, am I doing questions? Are we doing questions? Or I don't want to go off anymore, but I just wanted to say we are working on this day and night. I have a great staff. I introduced you to Sarah Deso, my chief of staff. I also have Nikki Azari. Nikki, you want to stand and turn around? Is my senior deputy for this area. If you guys don't already know who she is. And I also have Nick Greif, my policy director. I have my entire team working on this, and I want you to know, Nikki's in the front line. She's out in the field. She's my senior deputy for the area, and she's empowered to do everything I could do. She doesn't need to come to me to check up and say, David, council member, can I help this person with X, Y, or Z? She doesn't have to ask. That's her job, because that's my job. So feel free to reach out to Nikki, to Nick, my chief of staff, Sarah, or myself, but we are all working together hand in hand with Metro to make this difficult decision, because it's going to be difficult no matter what. I mean, no matter how we package it, it's going to be hard. But we'll try to make sure we do it in a way where it's as respectful to your lives as possible. So thank you.
A lot of the comment cards were questions for the contractor, but does anyone have any questions that they would like to ask the council member? I think he has a few short minutes.
I believe I do, right?
What was the question, Dave?
Well, let's put it this way. The decision has been already made. It's going to happen. The purple line, it's the... Oh, that would be me. Oh, with my recommendation.
Can you repeat the question? Because we.
The question was who makes the decision for 7 weeks or 22 weekends or any other new option we come up with, and that would be Board of Public Works. Right. So the official channels is Department of Transportation of the City of LA signs off on it. The Board of Public Works makes the decision, but it would be highly based on my recommendation.
All right, any other questions for the council member?
Are you going to set a deadline for those 3 studies so we know when to expect some news, the 3 studies you stated in the beginning? And the second point is that I came in and I'm representing a lot of my neighbors who couldn't be here, who care very much. 5:30 to 7 is when families are kind of struggling to do homework and come home from work and make dinner. And so there are a lot of people that of that nature who I'm kind of representing, and the majority of which do not want it happen, do not want close downs during the week because of the traffic.
I fully agree with you, and that's why I said earlier on, 5:30 would have not been maybe the most opportune choice, but this was set before from a while back. But I can promise you, we are going to be working hand in hand with Metro to make sure proper outreach is done, where we have more of these forums, not just forums like this on more opportune times later in the evening or on weekends, but actually going out into the neighborhoods through the various holiday parties that are going to happen, homeowners associations, neighborhood councils, also an aggressive campaign using our local press, which a lot of people, I mean, I gotta tell you, once I was briefed on this, I happened to, I've been in office for about 135 days now. it just happened to be, I got briefed around my 100th day, and I was having an interview with the Beverly Press for my 100 days, nothing to do with this. And it was the first time visiting the Beverly Press at their headquarters, and they happened to be at ground zero. They were right where the closure was going to happen. And I asked them, oh, by the way, you know, it's going to affect you both, I mean, as a neighborhood, as a local paper, where you know, have lots of contact with the community, and as a business, what do you think? And they said, what are you talking about? And that's when I said, uh-oh. And we started becoming a lot more aggressive. So yes, we are going to work with Metro, and like I said, the Expo Phase 2 had such a great outreach strategy. We're going to talk with Metro to figure out what they did right there, so we could replicate it here. And as for a timeline for the 3 reports, look, we have February is our deadline. That is the deadline. They're going to break ground on March. So it's not like we have much time. I don't want to arbitrarily set a deadline with Metro. We're working with them literally, and we're meeting with them at least once a week. So they know, and how, I mean, if you haven't sensed the urgency or how much I'm working with Metro on this, I'm sure they know. And I've taken it up to the highest levels. I've talked to Phil Washington. I mean, he's been very responsive. The CEO at Metro. They hired a new chief communications officer who has also been very active. So it would be as soon as possible, because we need to have some ample time for the community, for you guys to be able to digest the report. Because a report where it doesn't get read doesn't mean anything. So yes, as soon as possible.
Okay, we have one final question.
Actually, a double question. So, as a parent in this community, and I agree that, you know, God forbid this goes on during the week, have you guys thought of any provisions in terms of pick-up and drop-off times for the school in the neighborhood? And the second part of the question is, have you also thought about any kind of shuttle services so that, you know, people are gathering blocks away and a shuttle comes and maybe into the community and gets the kids and takes them back, so that everybody's not pouring into these areas at, you know, 2:45 and 7:15 in the morning?
Thank you so much for bringing that question up. And yes, 2 parts. That's when I talk about the traffic management plan and mitigation plan. In the short 2 or 3 weeks that my office and my staff has already been doing outreach, there's been so many ideas about shuttles, closing. There's lots of traffic. Street closures, but opening it up for local traffic, opening it up for school areas. No left turns, no right turns. There's been lots of suggestions that have already been presented, and that's what I mean by getting this report together. And what I want to know, and what I also want to say here is, before, when I got here and when I was walking to the bathroom, right when I was walking to the bathroom, I had about 3 people come up to me because they had concerns and they had ideas. What I want to ask is, if you could, for the time being, till these studies come out, if you could help, it would tremendously help me out in my office out if you could synthesize your ideas in an email. I mean, I have a survey on my website as well, and send it to me, as well as work with your community groups. Because a lot of these ideas are, you know, lots of people are saying similar ideas. So if you could help prioritize it by working with your various community groups or your block groups or your neighbors and synthesizing the ideas for us, that would tremendously help out our office. Because I want to meet with every single one of you, but we literally have about 3 months to work this out. And of course the holidays are stuck in between. So I could meet with every single one of you once, or you could help by synthesizing your ideas, working with your homeowners associations, your neighborhood associations, and prioritizing those ideas and sending it to my office. And it's easy as you could just Google my name, but you could do cd4.issues@lacity.org. cd4.issues@lacity.org, or email it to me at david.ryu@lacity.org.
Thank you, Councilmember. I think we're going to go through some of these questions that we had about decking. Most of these were for the contractor. So, Mike, do you want to come up and answer these?
I gotta go, but I gotta go because I'm going to Windsor Square annual meeting right now. So I'm sure they're gonna there's probably a couple hundred people there, and I'm gonna have to probably repeat everything I said here. But I gotta go, so I want you guys to know I would love to stay and talk to every single one of you, but I'm going to Windsor Square right now. So thank you guys.
Okay, our first question was from Amy Captain. She said, will there be traffic police at Highland and Wilshire? Traffic control officers, I would think. Traffic police. Wilshire. Is this on?
Yeah, I would most likely think that you'll see traffic control officers.
Yeah, traffic control officers, TCOs, in either closure situation will be deployed really throughout the main intersections of the project. And that question was Highland and Wilshire.
Yes.
That's it. Yes.
Okay, Stephanie said, I want to share our residents' experience and concerns in support of the 7-week option. Did you want to? Thank you. And I'm not sure if this would have been a David Ryu thing or if this would be for you, but I would like to share this with everyone in the room. So I work with Essex Property Management, and I represent 4 communities in this area, one of them being Wilshire Brea. This community has 478 households with approximately 1,000 residents that are going to be impacted by the construction of the Purple Line project right outside their front door. And every resident I've spoken with is really in complete support of the 7-week option. Our residents are your neighbors. These are the people who are out shopping at your stores. They are having dinner at your restaurants. And I want to share their experience and some of the stories that they've shared with me. So I want you to close your eyes for a moment, and I want you to put yourself in their shoes. So picture yourself wrapping up a 70-hour work week. It's been long, you're emotionally exhausted, mentally exhausted, your feet hurt because you've been standing and walking all day long, and all you want to do is head home, and you're looking forward to climbing into bed and forgetting about the day and sleeping it off. And as your head hits the pillow, you are kept awake by the loud churning of asphalt as the crew outside bores 60 feet underground. The room shudders as they dig deeper. You hear the beeping of the construction trucks as they reverse and the teams yelling at each other. The weekend goes by and you haven't slept. It's hard to drown out the noise of construction with the television or your radio. And you're too tired to go shopping or out to brunch with your friends. And the weekend comes to an end. And Monday comes and you return to work at Cedars-Sinai and you have a bypass on a 50-year-old father. 2 children at home, and I want to know how confident are you? So Wilshire Brea has 43 homes that are directly facing Wilshire Boulevard, 98 that are directly facing La Brea, and I want us to strive to get back to normal as soon as possible, and I would really love to have your support of the 7-week option. Thank you. Thank you. The next comment was from Polly Chu. Did you want to speak to this, Polly? And then next will be Barbara Henderson, just if you want to come up. And we'll give everyone a minute.
Hi, first of all, I want to say I'm really excited about the extension of the Purple Line. I think it's really going to be a great addition to our city. I think it's really amazing that you can do this. You can put in a subway over under an existing city. I do want to point out, I think it's interesting that it's actually 7 full week closure versus 16 weekends, right? Because the other 6 weekends are going to happen no matter what. So I think it's really important to clarify that it's 7 full weeks versus 16 weekends. Because I think 7 full weeks versus 22 weekends is misleading and incorrect. Because those other 6 weekends are going to happen no matter what. So the choice is 7 full weeks or 16 weekends. I also want to say that it's great that, of course, the neighborhoods involved get to comment, but it's also going to impact all the people who drive through this very central part of the city, who probably have no idea that this is coming. I have commuted east to west in this city, and it's already really difficult. And I can't imagine for 7 weeks that my commute is going to probably be at least half an hour longer each way. I'm going to be really frustrated. I'm not going to have enough sleep. My children are not going to have enough sleep because I have to get them up earlier to get them to school. They're going to get home later, and they still have to stay up and do homework. So I feel for the people that are right on that street. I mean, that's not going to be pleasant at all. And, you know, luckily they're going to have the subway right across the street from them, which will be wonderful. But, you know, there isn't a great solution, but I think that we need to also take into account all the people that are driving through that don't even know that this is going to happen. It's going to impact people on Olympic, obviously. It's going to impact people on Pico, and it's going to impact people on the 10. So lots more people in the city. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Barbara Henderson Rowe, please address the Sycamore Square residents' concerns about traffic cutting through their neighborhood due to various street closures.
And that's fine. That was just my concern. It sounds like you're going to address with the traffic mitigation situation. We currently have a lot of cut-through traffic already on Citrus from Olympic to Wilshire. And we have requested from the city for a long time to have speed bumps in our neighborhood because a lot of people go 60, 70 miles an hour because they don't want to get on the highway when it's already too busy. But I'm sure you'll address that in the traffic study, right? Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could not hear a word.
Conrad Starr, what research has been conducted?
Could you repeat the question?
We can't hear a word back here when people are talking that way.
Close that lady, she should repeat it.
All right, so Conrad Starr, Sycamore Square. Thanks to the Sycamore Square Council board members past and present for keeping us informed. I moved to the neighborhood 20 years ago. I waited to find out where my job was going to be so I could make sure that I was on the right bus line, and I haven't moved since, and I'm really excited about the metro. But one thing that I'm curious about is environmental studies, specifically carbon footprint of the two options, because we talk a lot about what how the subway is going to improve the environment, but I haven't heard anything about that yet. So what research has been done into the carbon impact of the two different options, and what were the results? Thank you.
Quite honestly, we haven't done anything on the two options in terms of carbon footprint. Has not been conducted.
Could you repeat that? I'm sorry, what?
We have not conducted any studies on either of the approaches for carbon footprint. Has not been done.
Betty Reisman was the next comment. Betty, did you want to? You said representing a number of neighbors who definitely oppose the 7-week schedule. We live on adjacent streets, and the through traffic that will be diverted will strangle our streets if the intersection is closed during the week. Okay, and you commented earlier. Thank you. Peter Young, noise occurring from the night shift, mainly during Crenshaw Boulevard. Do you have any questions about the La Brea closure? Where's Peter? Okay, we'll address those questions at the end. We're going to get through the rest of the presentation and go over. Michelle Owen, prior to making decisions for traffic mitigation, how can residents and neighborhoods offer feedback on specific traffic solutions? I think we all heard Councilmember Ryu say that he would like to hear your suggestions directly. So if everyone would email his office, you can also email the Purple Line Project, and we'll be creating a list of all of the comments and requests that we have received to date. Because prior to tonight, we've received a lot of requests from communities. So our email is purplelineext@metro.net. Lee Shapiro? Does Lee want to make some comments?
Yeah.
Wait, let's bring you a microphone. So what is the outside date for completion of decking road closures for both plans?
The outside, so the end date.
The end date
Right, so
on
we-
either plan. What's
Right.
the outside
So,
date?
if we start, we kind of have this March, April timeframe for starting. So, it finishes the work about 2 months earlier. So you're looking at having that deck in place in May. or you're looking at having that deck in place in July.
There's a second question on there too.
Yes, will approval of the alternative plan delay the commencement of work?
Delay what?
The commencement of work.
Of the entire project.
Because the council member was mentioning that you have to get new approvals for the alternative plan.
No, those approvals were always in place, and the 7-week alternative studies requires a lot more documentation and plans than the original baseline schedule does, but we've always been planning to get that done by March. So it will not, either option will not delay the start of decking at the end of March.
One more question. Once the decking is completed next year, will there be any more delays or traffic mitigation measures in front of the station in the future beyond that, at a later date?
Yes, so his question was, will there be any other traffic delays or construction on the street, I think is what you're saying, until the end of construction? Yes, for sure. About 5 to 6 years down the line, we have to take the deck back off and put down the permanent street. So the 7 full weeks versus 16 weekends will come up again around 2019, 2020. So that'll happen again. In between, you can talk about.
Yeah, I do want to point out, maybe we can roll that slide back that shows the grout areas. We didn't articulate that to the gentleman's question. Yeah, let's take it back. There is work that will require lane closures, significant lane closures. If you look at the, I guess they're the orange, the orange squares. We have to densify the ground. We have to pump grout into the ground to make it safe for the tunnel boring machines to pass into those areas. So we will have to do lane closures for that work as our grouting crews sit on the top of the street and then drill and grout in. There would perhaps be shared closures during the full closure of the street midweek that we could use. But there will be grout work that will trail the deck assemblies for that work.
Okay, next was Christopher Golder.
Hi, my name is Christopher Golder. I work with Essex Property Trust. We're the developer and owner of Wilshire Brea. I represent our development department and retail component. We're aggressively trying to lease up the 40,000 square feet of retail that's directly on the corner of Liberation and Wilshire. We've had a lot of pushback from prospective tenants on the extended weekend closures of 22 weeks, 16 weeks. And we've actually lost prospective leases because of that. So we're in full support of the condensed 7-week closure. I understand it's going to impact those that live in the community and businesses along Wilshire, but I think it's best that the work get done and over with as soon as possible. We have a letter that we sent to Jim Cohen, and I believe we copied the council office on it, but I'll give you a copy of the letter as well for this evening. Thank you.
Okay, last comment was Diane Dickstein, and I think she said I could read this for her. Her concern is traffic on the side streets. She does prefer the weekend closure. And do you have hauling routes for materials?
We do have approved haul routes. There are multiple haul routes approved in the EIR, and those are the routes that we'll follow. And we get them approved with the Bureau of Street Services, Bureau of Engineering, and the Department of Transportation. We approve all the haul routes. So most of them do follow La Brea and Crenshaw. And I do think there's one that possibly goes up Highland. So Dr.
Okay, if you change the option, so if we go to the alternative schedule, what will that do to the budget?
One more time, please. I'm sorry.
If we use the alternative option, 7 full weeks, what will that do to the budget?
These are budget neutral. They're both budget neutral. No budget considerations in either circumstance.
And is there an allowance for weather? So what happens if we get this El Nino we're hearing about?
El Nino, in terms of the choices, that's a neutral thing. El Nino, either in the weekends or midweek. And yeah, I mean, the work is susceptible to El Nino, and we will carefully watch weather in that time frame. We're aware that that could be a rainy period. We will not implement weekend closures or midweek closures or any closures with inclement weather forecast. Right, Brian? So that's something we will carefully watch and be mindful of.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're going to then move on with the rest of our presentation. Michael Cortez, who is the Senior Construction Relations Officer for the east segment of the project, will continue.
Thank you, Casey. So the first slide that we have on PowerPoint is Metro will be having a maintenance facility located in the Arts District. It is located at 590 South Santa Fe Avenue, where the 6th Street Bridge is at. Currently, the work that's happening right there is abatement work, so they're removing concrete and then ultimately will be removing contaminated soils at that site. Work is happening Monday through Saturday from 7 a.m. to 4:30. Moving towards where the subway work is happening, we have, it's called the tie-in at Wilshire Western. We just acquired the property on the northeast corner of Wilshire and Manhattan Place. If you've driven by that area, it is currently fenced. We'll be putting some signage out there with the project, how to contact the Purple Line extension. We'll be scheduling abatement work and then ultimately demolition of that building. It will ultimately be the location where the tunnel boring machine will pop out and then go west to Fairfax and La Cienega. The next phase of work at Wilshire Western will be pothole work, and it'll be starting in December, and that work will be happening during 9:30 to 3:30, so during daytime hours. Moving west on Wilshire, the first thing you'll run into is our Crenshaw staging yard, which is located on the corner of Wilshire and Crenshaw. It's currently being used by our advanced utility contractors as well as our design build contractors, a small space in there. We continue to maintain that yard on Mondays. The contractor cleans up the yard after if there's any issues there. At La Brea, we're wrapping up some sewer drain work that's near the corner of Wilshire and Orange. We have about even though the slide says November 13th, we have about another week left of work, and that work happens at the nighttime from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. The next phase of work is trenching for pile installation, which will begin November 16th and run through February. Jill mentioned what pile installation is. This is the work that will happen behind the concrete barriers. And that work will be predominantly during the daytime from 9 a.m. To 3:30, but we will have times where we'll be doing it in the evening hours. The North La Brea staging yard, we're completing the sound wall that is currently being constructed there. We have about another week or so that for completion. Right now they're building a driveway on La Brea, and so there's a sidewalk closure until that work is completed. After that staging yard is complete, we'll be putting some artwork on those walls. For South La Brea, you've possibly, if you've driven by, you've seen that no longer is where the wedding chapel was and the printing place is no longer there. That building is down. It's about 80% complete of demolition work there is done. And so they just need to remove the materials from the demolition work. The sound wall is also being constructed and should be anticipated to be completed by December. And the same thing that will be in the north side, we'll also be putting artwork on the south side of the yard. And there will be, and a driveway was constructed already at this yard. The trees, we began the tree removal process in September when we removed the 3 medians at Wilshire. We relocated 6 of those trees that were on the sidewalk near the La Brea apartments. 4 of those palm trees went at our Crenshaw staging yard, and 2 of them went to the LAPD station. So Captain Leslie was very happy, and we're glad to have been able to do that and work with LAPD and put 2 trees there. The next tree removal schedule is at Fairfax at December 2016, followed by La Cienega in 2016 as well, in late 2016. Every tree that is removed will be replaced 2 to 1 with additional landscaping. These are just some of our mitigation efforts that we take when we're doing work out in the evening times. We have put noise blankets, we do maintenance. That just shows our design of our sound wall, and then workers cleaning up any debris that come from the work that we're doing on the street. And that's just a photo of them cleaning in front of the BMW Service Center. Every month we highlight a different business. We have an Eat Shop Play program where it's a free social marketing program where we highlight all the businesses that are within the Purple Line extension alignment. This month we're highlighting I Love Lulu, which is located on La Brea, about a block away from the future La Brea station. They offer it's a hair spa that focuses on treating the hair scalp with all natural and organic oils. To learn more about I Love Lulu, please go to our Eat Shop Play website and you'll see what discounts or what they offer in more details. And that concludes my presentation.
Good evening. Thank you for staying. My name's Mindy. I do the construction relations for the Fairfax and La Cienega station. This is a rendering of the location of where the Fairfax station will be at Orange Grove, between Ogden and Orange Grove on the south side of Wilshire. We are nearly complete with the advanced utility relocation work at Fairfax. We just have some LADWP cable pulling to do to complete our advanced relocation work at Fairfax, so we might have a little quiet time for the next couple of months. This is an example of the most recent level of AUR work that is going on. As you can see, they're down there in the trenches pulling the LADWP cable work. Our work is generally Sunday through Thursday, 8 p.m. to 6 a.m., Fridays 10 p.m. to 8 a.m., and occasionally Saturdays from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Right now we only have one contractor out there, so it's pretty minimal. We also employ noise mitigation measures that Michael had shown you earlier. We surround the site with noise blankets. You can see that on the picture on your left. And you can also see it on the picture on your right from a distance. We try very hard to control the noise at the source. We have low impact alarms, which is the quacking backup alarms that Mike had spoken of, battery powered solar lights, and we try to do the saw cutting, jackhammering before 11 p.m. We are now looking at the Ogden staging yard, formerly the exploratory shaft. The photo on the left are the demolition photos of the 2 apartment buildings on South Orange Grove. The apartment, the pink one on the left will be going down as of tomorrow. The green frame around the photo on the right will be the full scope of the Ogden staging yard. The 2 buildings, the 2 squares in yellow have been completely abated and will be demolished, and hopefully the demolishing will be completed by early January 2016. The commercial stretch on the upper and the lower portion is that 1 apartment building. And we will be constructing a sound wall prior to any construction taking place in the Ogden staging yard. Right now it's being used as storage space for the design builder. The 2 green squares on your right indicate the north staging yard area for Fairfax. The building on the left, which is no longer a building, was the Marinello School of Beauty. And the little backward 7 on the right is a portion of the parking lot that used to be adjacent to Johnny's. We've put together the Fairfax Construction Coordination Project, which is a project where all of the private commercial development projects meet every couple of months within a 2 to 3 block area of Fairfax and Wilshire. There's a lot of development going on. We felt it was a good idea for us all to meet every couple of months to go over our schedules and make sure we coordinate our efforts so that we minimize the impacts on the community. It's been working out really well,
and we've been able to coordinate some of our activities with the Peterson Museum, and hopefully we'll be able to do the same with AMPUS so that we can all play nicely in the sandbox. This is a rendering of the La Cienega station, which is on the northeast corner of La Cienega and Wilshire, formerly the City Bank building. It's between La Cienega and Tower Drive, just west of San Vicente. We are currently in the middle of the AUR work there. You can see we're going to be continuing that through 2016, hopefully to be completed by the beginning of 2017. These are some of the photographs of the work that has gone on in the La Cienega area. The photo on the left shows you the Saban Theater, the noise blankets in front of the Hill Bar and Grill restaurant, the alternative loading zone sign that we have for the Saban when they can't unload on Wilshire. They have a loading zone on Hamilton. And the photo on the right shows you some of the scope of the work that goes on right in the middle of Wilshire Boulevard, while we still maintain 2 lanes of traffic in each direction. If you notice the shadow of the inspector taking the picture, it's a bit like the Thin Man, for any of you that might remember that. So what's next at La Cienega is the abatement work will be completed on the buildings between Gale and Hamilton. One of the buildings has already been abated, the other one is in the process of being abated, and the work hours, as you can clearly see, are Monday through Friday 7 to 4, and Saturday or Sunday 8 to 6, and our nighttime hours vary, starting at 8 o'clock or at 12 a.m. depending on the theater schedule for the Saban. This is a picture of the Gale staging yard, which is Gale just north of Wilshire. The full circumference of that staging yard is in green, and the buildings that are currently being abated are in red. And this is the future La Cienega staging yard, which has been fully abated, the City Bank and the former Phoenix restaurant, and we're just waiting to move forward with those staging yards. The weekend directional closures, and I forgot to alter this, are completed. We had 8 weeks of weekend directional closures on Wilshire between La Cienega and San Vicente in order to let the contractor have the full scope of the street. We were able to expedite some of the work that they needed to get done. It was very successful, and we completed the last weekend closure last weekend. Each I'll play for my segment was Family Pharmacy, which is in the Landmark Center, for those of you who might be familiar with that little mini mall at San Vicente and Wilshire on the south side of the street. They are also offering a discount on your prescriptions, so if you mention Metro, you'll get $5 off on your prescriptions, so please go there for your drugs and mention Metro. They're not open on Saturdays, by the way. Oh, sorry, oops. We launched our first quarterly drawing, which was a cash prize winning opportunity for customers that ate, shopped, played, and spent money in some of the businesses that are participating in our program. Thank you to STS for being our financial sponsor on this. We had 3 very excited and enthusiastic women winners in all 3 stations. Beverly Wilshire Cleaners in the Landmark Center was the $250 winner. Miracle Mile Toys and Games was the big $1,000 winner. And Maya, not Sutler, but Maya, happens to live right up the street from Wady Spa, went in and got a massage, and the very next day she won $500. So it's a very effective program, and every single one of these winners actually live in the area. We're very excited about Metro coming, and now they're really excited about shopping local. The next drawing will be the first quarter of next year. And our next meeting will be on the west end at the Beverly Hills Tennis Center on La Cienega on January 21st. So please come and see us in a couple of months and see what news we have for you. And if you want to have more information about our project, you have the project cards out on the door, on the table. You can reach us. We're really available. So thank you for coming. Casey?
Thank you. If anyone else has, let's just go next. Comment cards, we'll take comments now on anything. I did get a question from Susan Friedman. Susan?